All right. Well, evidently the music isn't going to happen, guys, but work in progress. So let's get it. We'll have the music next time. I had a great theme song to play, but now I'm not going to spoil it. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining. We've got a pretty good sized crowd so far, and we've got some very esteemed speakers today for our first ever X402SDAY on the eve of Breakpoint. A lot of things to talk about. We've got Pontus of Corbits fame, and we've got a raw ground beef of Memputer and x402jobs fame. Good to have you both. And I thought we would first dive into what's going on in X402 in general, and then we'll talk about a little bit about Dexter. But today on X402SDAY is really about everything that's going on in X402 world, in the Solana world, crypto agent world, and everything in between. So I want this to be a weekly thing where we get a little bit in the weeds, a little bit maybe more than other spaces do, and try to give people a better understanding of what is going on in this world, because there's so much going on. So figured we'd start, of course, with the biggest thing of Solana's year, which is Breakpoint, starting in what, 24 hours or so. I've got a flight to catch at midnight, but Pontus, you got team members already there. Is that true?
I believe so. I think Alex took off last night, or is taking off, and he'll be there representing us. He will be speaking at Solana Money Summit about X402 and the journey we've had over the last 6 months, building Fairmeter and Corbits, and shipping support for X402 on Solana, and giving some alpha, as is always the case with Breakpoint. Stay tuned to our socials. If you're not there, it'll come out kind of with rolling updates through the end of the year. And we're also co-hosting the X402 meetup at Breakpoint as well, alongside the Solana Foundation. So yeah, I'm bummed not to be there. It's the first Breakpoint I'll have missed since they started doing them back in 2021. But can't wait to see everything that comes out, and Lord knows we're still busy here with everything we're working on. So yeah, blessing in disguise, I guess.
You guys have been busy all year. You guys are unquestionably one of the pioneers of X402 on Solana, if not, honestly, the pioneer of X402 on Solana. So that's great to see. And I've gone into deep into your repos. So I mean, I'm super impressed with your stuff. And same with you for raw ground beef. So what have you been working on?
What's up, Branch? How you doing, man?
I'm having a great day. How about you?
I still love saying your name, Branch Manager 69. I thought my name was cool. That's the first thing I said to you when I met you. I was like, I thought my name was cool, but you totally take the cake. So yeah, sorry, I'm getting notifications here. I'm gonna try to turn them off while I'm talking. So yeah, so I'm Ben. You call me Ben or Raw Ground Beef if you prefer. I made Memputer, as you mentioned earlier. I've been working on that for the last like 130 days or something like that. Memputer is, if you don't know, it is like an agent operating system. You can create agents and give them knowledge, give them skills, give them personality, give them structured commands, and deploy them, and give them wallets, and then deploy them into integrations like Twitter and Telegram as bots, and X as auto reply agents, and sorry, I said Twitter twice, and X402 resources as well. You can turn each command and their chat personality as X402 resources. And so we've been fairly successful with that. We've created a decent community around that. And the last piece of that stack, the agent operating system stack, from my point of view, is like composability. So that's where x402jobs comes into play. So I'm here to kind of talk mostly about that. x402jobs lets you build complex pay-per-use workflows. So we could have built this into Memputer, but it felt more correct and modern, to build it into the x402 ecosystem, because it felt like that was missing. So I started out like registering resources on x402 scan, and I was like, well, why can't I like chain them together? Like, I see what you did with the NCP service, and like I can chat my way into my tools and stuff, but I wanted to chain them together. So I ended up building that over the last couple of weeks. And you can run these jobs as manually from the UI or on a schedule, and then or remotely from like a webhook. So it's sort of like N8N meets X402 scan. And the magic is when you call, like, the webhook itself becomes an X402 resource. So you can create these complex jobs that are actually also X402 resources, and you can charge per use on top of that. So you can create a job that's full of resources that costs, let's say, a composite of 10 cents or something like that. And then you can charge another 10 cents on top of that, and then publish it as a URL, and grab that URL, and you can go register that in X402 scan, and you'll be on our server. So any job you build can call other jobs as well, and any job can be registered as its own pay-per-use API. So that's what I'm building, and happy to talk more about it. I probably already took too much time here, but pass the mic back to you, Branch, unless you have questions.
That was a great intro, and I think that what you're building, I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. I think there's an echo. Hold on one second. Oh, there's your mic. There we go. I think I'm looking at it right now. In fact, I see Dexter Cash as a server. So it wasn't me, but somebody must have been playing around. And I think this is an amazing idea. The composability is obviously where things are going, and I think we'll get into that more either today or next week. But projects like Dreams, we're dabbling in that. You guys are dabbling in that. A lot of people are kind of realizing that that's the next flow in the agent operating system for x402. So not to get ahead of ourselves, but I want to talk about Dexter a little bit. So where to begin? I think the most important thing is that we're about to get some of our best time in front of other builders for the next 5-6 days at Breakpoint. I'm going to be on the ground wearing my new Dexter merch, by the way, in case you haven't seen the pictures in the Telegram, hat, quarter zip, the whole 9 yards. And it looks great, by the way, because I want everybody who sees the distinctive logo to come talk to me and see what we can build together. Big on project help project, right? So in that vein, I've begun integrating Dreams agent system. We've already discussed how we're in some ways working with the fare meter system in some ways, but and now with x402jobs, I'm kind of excited about how we can. I mean, the webhook system is legitimately novel, so kudos to you on that. I was toying with the QR code system, run a x402 job via a QR code, but not to get off track. I think a lot of people have been wondering, when are we going to be facilitating on multi-chain? I think we're one of the few that have been Solana only, like you guys. And Solana is always going to be home. Solana is home. Solana is where the action is going to be at, in my opinion, long-term on x402. It'll be everywhere, but especially on Solana. That being said, as of today, in fact, just about 15 minutes ago, we begun facilitating on Base. So we'll see where that takes us. I think it's the beginning of the more important thing, which is becoming chain agnostic. And whatever happens in the future with more chains, and shoot, Avalanche, who knows, BNB, we now have a system that can pretty dynamically switch between chains on the same. Alrighty, there we go. So, all right, back to work. So Dexter's facilitating on Base, and that's great. I don't want to spend too much time on that, because at the end of the day, guys, Solana is our home. We are going into Breakpoint, where Solana is the topic of the show here. So on Solana, dynamic pricing has been an issue. So what we're also releasing today is dynamic pricing. So our own implementation makes good use of the fact that we're our own facilitator, which has a lot of benefits, guys. Being a vertically stacked, vertically integrated system has a lot of benefits, and one of them is that dynamic pricing becomes a little bit easier. So today we're introducing a King of the Hill game. It's basically if you pay 1 more cent than the last guy, every day the game will reset, and every day there'll be a winner, and you'll get half of the proceeds, and the rest will go directly to the facilitator. It's essentially a demo of dynamic pricing, but happy to introduce that. And that'll also be on X402 Scan as a resource. And the way that we've got it set up, now this is a little tricky because it's not part of the spec. So I want the live dynamic price to be reflected in what X402 Scan shows. So this was a little bit tricky. I don't know if you guys have had to deal with this, but with the with every time it's being checked to have it not be cached. So I've done a lot of experimenting on that, and I think we've got it good to go. So we'll be seeing that. We're looking good on X402 Scan, and I like their interface for talking to agents, but I like MemePuter a little bit even more. So I would love to get some Dexter and MemePuter agents together.
Bro, let's do it. What are we waiting for?
So much going on. We've got one more thing to talk about with Dexter. We've got a massive website and documents refresh that's about 75% way through. I'm going to finalize it on the plane tonight, as I've been planning to do, and I'm very excited about that. I think it's going to give a much fuller understanding to anybody who doesn't fully understand what the Dexter system is, because it's a lot of things. It's a facilitator, it's a resource server, combined with an MCP server, combined with an extensive API with accounts if you choose to use them. And the composability comes into play if you want to use an account. Let's talk about, I guess, Breakpoint. So you mentioned the Solana Money Summit that Corbits is going to be at. I've applied to that too, and I wonder if my invite is in the email, but can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, as far as like the summit or something else?
I hear it's actually pretty huge. I think others would like to hear anything you know about it.
Yeah. As from what I understand, it's a kind of dedicated day for like DeFi and PayFi, as well as I guess like stable coins for Solana. So for any like listener that's not been to Breakpoint before, it's a multi-day kind of tour de force end of year conference for Solana that travels around the world, but usually happens in like November or December. And over the course of typically like 3 to 4 days, teams, ecosystem leaders, etc., kind of announce and share reflections on the year, what's happening both in and outside of crypto that's impacting builders, regulation, etc. And so over the past 2 breakpoints, and it's coming back for this one as well, they've introduced kind of or like themed days, if you will, or like themed sections of Breakpoint. And with Solana Money Summit, that's exactly what this is. So it's a themed day designed to tackle specific topics, in this case, revolving around DeFi, PayFi, and stablecoins. And kind of relevant to everyone on this call or on this space, looped into that are x402 payments. So expect just a lot of like highly topical, highly focused presentations, announcements, fireside chats, etc., from folks both in and outside of the Solana ecosystem. Shout outs to Ellie and the rest of the Solana events team for kind of enabling these kind of curated days and side events to occur. They really do add a lot of value to the experience.
Looks like they've got Huma Finance, WorldPay, Solstice, Ellipsis Labs, Loopscale, a lot of big names in here. That's exciting. Over 400 people going to that, and that's on Friday. Wow. In addition to that, they just announced the X402 Happy Hour with big names, including Kevin from Coinbase, and I'm excited for that. Oh man, I'm excited for a lot of these things. in addition to that, let's see what else happened in Solana just in the last 7 days. Solana x402, I don't know if you'd agree with this, went from a cute demo to wow, that's some real traffic there. Specifically in dollar volume this week, but just if you look at the share of the transactions, it's pretty impressive how quickly they've ramped up activity in just a week. And I know that Dexter is no small part of that, but Pay AI as well, and some other teams. And I have some theories about why that's happening, but I think that one of the big drivers this week was the x402 monopoly. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it was one of the first gamifications of x402, and I think they did. I mean, obviously it's a great user interface, but it's a what would you call it? A prediction market betting based on which agent is going to win the monopoly game, and they're playing live in front of you. I love that type of thing. What do you guys, have you seen that?
Yeah, we actually helped support them with, they were using our Facilitator for their day one launch. So super happy to kind of see I think more fun and hands-on demos happening. I think where everyone's kind of used to the classic, like, hey, tell an agent to go and do things, and it goes off and does a task and comes back with a response, or I guess a job being done. But it's always fun kind of seeing live and in action. And I think that um, what they did with kind of the live betting piece is super smart. Being able to kind of participate as a spectator was really novel. So yeah, really interested to kind of see what that team ends up kind of building out on top of it. Or if it just ends up being a bunch of agents playing Monopoly ad infinitum, if you will.
And that's I think I've read something about how they're maybe using, I could be wrong about this, don't quote me, but the Dreams agent system to drive it a little bit. And I think that gets me into maybe the next topic. And I don't mean to skip you, Raw Ground, but the agent to agent discovery evolution. How do I phrase that? I'm tripping over my words, but the A2A system and how, let's just say I wanted my Dexter agent to join that game and how that would be done. And that type of evolution of the system to make it like a true x402 A2A system. So where do you guys think that the x402 economy is going in that sense? Like is in the value stack, is it going to accrue to agents, servers, facilitators? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Plenty of I have plenty of thoughts on
let me ask a more specific question then. Let me ask a more better question. How about do you think how long until you think that the world is ready for that? And what's stopping us from having that today the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think like fundamentally, there are a couple of points that there are a couple of points I think to make here. One is like, it's important that we remember that x402 is just a payment specification, right? So like, it's it's a novel way of enabling specifically agents to pay for things. But I think to like go so far as to say, like, make the point now that like x402 is going to win as a payment spec is exceptionally early. This certainly seems to have like, feels like it has a lot of momentum behind it. But like, this is one of the things that we talk with teams fairly frequently about like using fair meter as a framework as opposed to just kind of like forking the Coinbase reference implementation for x402, is that when you use that reference implementation, you're making really like two bets. One, you're making a bet that x402 is going to be the payment standard, and two, you're making a bet that Coinbase is going to be that Coinbase's reference implementation, right, is going to be kind of the a supported structure to build on. And we wrote an article kind of about like our philosophy behind why we built the first framework for X402. And it's ultimately because we like recognize, having seen standards wars play out in software over the last like 20, 30 years, that X402 might not win, right? And if it doesn't, people that are building with Fairmeter can quickly pivot to like other payment specs. And that means that agent builders can just kind of focus on building really like interesting and novel things, not necessarily like which spec is going to win, um, if you will, or if Coinbase will continue supporting this ad infinitum. Um, the other thing I think to like hit on here, without getting like too deep in the weeds, is that I think the world in general is like at kind of this crux of still understanding what roles agents play in our lives. Um, People, I think, like the data clearly shows people are using it um, in their personal lives, mostly to kind of create Ghibli images of their pets and their loved ones. And maybe that's like evolving in that, like, okay, where like people are now starting to like use it to build grocery lists or make decisions on like things that are happening in their lives, which is great. Um, but outside of that, like the things that people are using them even for in work, like the professional like parts of their lives, are still like fairly medial, and not super complex. And so I think like the way to think about agents right now is that the idea of an agent, a computer program that is capable of doing things for us on our behalf with like real time access to resources and some like ways of thinking about things, or like some structured ways of thinking about the things that are occurring, and the context that we give it, is improving, and limiting ourselves ultimately to just like a handful of tools isn't going to be like how we win, right? We talk about this in like our article, that agents aren't going to give a shit about what like the best block, or like what blockchain you build on, or like they transact on. They're going to evaluate the solution that is best for whatever their use case is. And so like you guys supporting base Dexter, I think is like a really good example, not of like you making a decision on whether or not like you're trying to support different ecosystems, but rather like positioning your agents with the like best railways for whatever tools that they might need to access down the road. And that's like one of the core philosophies behind Fairmeter, both at like the infra technical level, but also on like the agent level. Um, and it's something I think like people should be pushing for and more like talking about more, as opposed to just like picking up the first thing that's there and like running with it, right? Like be informed, ask difficult questions, and like learn as you build. That's the only way to like survive.
Lots of very factual and interesting points there. So I couldn't have said it any better myself about why I like the fact that we're facilitating for base now, because it's a new capability should the market and the world go that way. I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball, but I have my thoughts. I think it's going to be Solana, but to make sure that to make sure that we're prepared for whatever happens, and yeah, becoming chain agnostic. And you're right, they're not going to care about the plumbing on how it gets done. In fact, that's the magic of 402. Like it's not really, you don't have to worry about the plumbing. It's already trained to know what payment required means. So That's great. And then your thoughts on agents are also very true. It's a very amorphous word right now, but essentially it's a computer program on a loop, and there are levels to this shit, so they say. But for example, Dexter right now is about 99% a reactive agent rather than a proactive agent. And that's fine. You know, it's using its internal agentic workflows to chain together multiple different tools. Right now, there's about 35, but I'll talk about that in a second. And the agentic workflow all is reactive. So you give it a command, it does a lot of things together, however it needs to do it, eventually gives you the result. However, I think that just as important, if not more important, as a reactive agent is a proactive agent, one that is acting on your behalf. It's essentially permanently running. You could think of it like running 24/7 on, let's say, on-chain or Dexter servers, or however it, maybe both. But that is where it has your goals in mind and it's actively managing things on your behalf. Now, it doesn't really exist much today at all. ChatGPT, a purely reactive, well, and I hesitate to call it an agent, but it does. And yeah, that's something I'll talk about more later. But as far as the 35 tools that the agent has accessible to it, like you said, man, they aren't going to care about how the job gets done or how it needs to get done or how the cake is made. They just want the cake. So if that means that I can better make a system where it only has one tool, and that one tool is essentially a resource discoverability or a search, Google, essentially, if you will, Googling which x402 resource to use, right? And then knowing how to use it, that's kind of the greater vision, if I haven't ever said that out loud, for Dexter, because as you add more and more and more tools, it actually gets worse knowing how to use them. So we're going to pare back some of the capabilities that it has now in order to make the existing ones and new ones much better. And I don't know. And then I don't want to, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I mean, this is everyone's favorite topic in like this space, in like x402, is like this question about discovery, right? And I know that there's on in like EVM land, there's a lot of conversation around ERC 8004, which is a on-chain reputation system for agents. And I think like your point about like agents using like more tools means more difficult decisions for agents, I think is apt. But I don't think we're like at that point yet. And like frankly, the way that we're approaching this is like the more tools that we can make available, the better. And agents, and just like our assumption is that agents will be smart enough to figure out which tools are the best ones for the jobs that they're trying to do. Part of that will come from like discovery and reputation systems for sure. But that all these are just like layers to this. So yeah, there's plenty more to be built, that's for sure.
That's a very fair point. I don't think we're at that limit either. And I guess that's where it's going. I'll say 6 months from now, or maybe a year from now, and maybe never. I think you could absolutely be right. And I don't want to forget about raw ground beef. What say you on the matter?
Wow. I mean, you guys are smarter than me. I don't know. Where the value accrues, I think, is to the user, the human, the people. I think ultimately, I'm not the first one to say this. Work becomes optional, perhaps, on the longer tail, and agents do the work. Things become so deflationary and competitive in this space. All the LLMs become extremely cheap and highly available, and I think agents end up doing all the work for us. And how they exchange value is, well, maybe it's x402, maybe it's some other protocol. I don't know. I think X402 makes a lot of sense. I think you can kind of compare it to like USB. Maybe we make upgrades, we end up on A, B, and C, and make improvements. But I think we need a protocol to like have agents exchanging value. So I'm glad that we do. And I think we're just in like the beginning phases of discovering a lot of this stuff. But I think that's where the value accrues is to people. And agents and AI just makes things incredibly cheap and easy to do, and we don't have to do a lot of work as a result. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the macro. There's smarter people than me that can kind of break this down for you. I just, right now, I just kind of am really good at seeing like what's missing in the space, and attacking that as fast as possible. And I think agents are gonna need structured tasks, and be able to make decisions in between points, right? Like, we always use when you start to think about agents, what do you think? Like travel agent, right? Like, or something like that. Go and book me a flight from LA to Phoenix or something like that on Thursday and give me a hotel, and then go and get all the dinner reservations. You know what I like, and I fly Delta. When I'm chatting with ChatGPT or whatever LLM service, it knows so much about me from context to context. Now I can just be like, hey, tell me about x402jobs. Give me like a elevator pitch, and it knows, and it's like a fresh context. So they're just going to learn about us, and we're going to be able to go from place to place and be able to like execute commands and execute tasks and things like that. I think we all know this. I think that future is coming, and we need to be able to give them money to be able to execute those things and do those things. And I think X402 jobs is an interesting use case, because it sort of is like a peek at what maybe is possible from that point of view, and it's permissionless in a way. Obviously, like it requires the server to be running, but the general workflow idea is, we need that in order to have a travel agent, let's say. And there's going to be various approaches to that, but I think X402 makes it possible to do that. Whether that spec changes or not, I don't know. Again, I'm not very good at like breaking down the macro of things, but Pontus is probably better at it than I am. He's probably done more thinking, but yeah, I mean, I'm obviously incredibly excited just to be in the space and help push it forward and be on the edge of it. And I think we're closer than we think. Like I listen to my wife. We're in like the same house. We both work from home, like a lot of people, and I listen to my wife working. Sometimes it's really annoying. I hate hearing her voice during the day. During the day, but she's a loud talker. I don't talk. I'm a programmer, so I just sometimes I talk to AI. And I hear her, and she's like, "Yeah, we're building an agent that da 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 da," and it goes and gets information about the da 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 da. And I'm just like, "Holy shit!" Like, okay, listen, guys. Like, she works for an accounting firm, a big one, but they're like laggards. Like, they're late to everything. Okay, and either they just switched up leadership and now they're on the forefront of everything, but like they're building agents to create pipelines to basically do what X402 Jobs does. And I know I'm not the first person to build a workflow app, but I think I'm the first one to do it fully X402, maybe. And like,
I think you are.
I think maybe, yeah, maybe I am. I don't know. I think if, the X402 jobs thing, it's their composite workflows. And at the end of it, you can create a webhook that calls it, that's also an X402 resource. And you can do that, turtles all the way down. And, if you can imagine like agents being able to do that themselves, where you have like an agent adapter, you can already like import JSON and do natural language job creation, and everything's moving fairly fast. And like, maybe there's a future where agents are creating their own jobs and paying for that and passing that around and sharing that and saying, "Hey, I got a job for booking a flight to Delta. Here you go." Discovery aside, we need all these pieces to kind of fit together. And I just think long term, it's very obvious that like humans are going to be doing very little work in the future. Work will be optional, and agents will be doing the job, whether whether we call them agents or whatever. We give AI ambient computing access to resources, and we just kind of sit back and define our preferences and ask it to do things for us. So yeah, I mean, that's like a long word salad, but I'm obviously just very positive on the space, and like most of you on this call.
And so you hit on a lot of things there. Sorry, there's an echo. There you go. So you hit a lot of things there. Where to begin? First, let me ask you something. Are you planning on having an agent interface on x402jobs where you can either watch or interact with the completed workflow, or just something where you're interacting with the agent rather than building the workflow?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, if
Okay.
you go on the homepage, there's a natural language. Like you can type in like generate an image and turn it into a video and post it to Telegram, and
Okay.
it'll do it. It's very early, and it needs some work. I've only give it one pass, and we have very little resources at the moment. Hint, hint. So hopefully we can start to get more resources on there, and we can start to make that more robust. But MemePuter, it's like fitting that MemePuter is like the company that sort of seeds it, because we already have lots of agents and resources that we can just kind of plop in there. So it helps. But yeah, I mean, so the more resources we have, the easier it's going to be to just like via chat create a job. Tell it what you want, and it'll kind of give you the rough outline, as opposed to having to like go in there and drag and drop and do all the work and whatever else. So we aim to make it as extendable, or I aim to make it as like configurable as possible, so you can basically do anything you need to do, and also like give you the tools to like get started extremely fast, and just give you like a rough sketch. Here's all the things you can actually press go, it'll work. But like you can also just like get in there and toggle the wires and change some things if you need to. But then also, you can import and export JSON, and then that's kind of where the machines come into play. So you can, my hope is that in the future, you can actually use an agent to come in there and create its own job. But that's sort of maybe like a month out or something like that, or more. Who knows?
Love it. And the reason I asked is because I think that the number one biggest thing missing right now from x402 in general, to really give it that oomph it needs, that oomph moment, is I guess it's another way of saying that killer app. And then that killer app is probably going to have a very good interface, right? It's going to have everything that you just mentioned. It's going to have the great ability to use the resources that it has. It's going to have great resources, but there has to be a way to use it. And I know that sounds obvious, but if I asked the room right now how you would use any of our agents, I mean, I think Dexter, not pat myself on the back, but might be just any agent in the world, right? How do you use it? And most of the time, there's no answer, because ChatGPT doesn't support it, and most of the time, people are interacting with AI. It's probably through a ChatGPT-like interface, and you can't load the Dexter agent in. Well, okay, see, actually, you can, but you outside of Dexter, you can't load an agent into ChatGPT, and still there are a little bit of trade-offs in doing so, and for example, it's fully managed. It's a custodial solution, right? You'll have to link your account, and that's the only trade-off really, but that's not, and that's great, but it's not x402, right? It is. So somebody's dying over there.
Sorry, it's the sounds of New York, my friend.
So let me be even clear about that. It is x402 in the background, but in fact, it's very x402. It's the agent doing the work, but the key benefit is that you don't have API keys and you don't have to log into an account. And at the moment, since it's not super native in ChatGPT, all you have to do is log into your Dexter account. But and it's a two-flow system. So where I was going with that is, I just think that if somebody could solve the interface problem, if somebody made an app, okay, where you could open it up, and you've got your you know, your agent systems, your jobs, your whatever. Let's start somewhere, you know. I just think that's what would really set things off. So I eagerly await that.
I think, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a culmination. Probably it'll probably happen over time. I don't know if you saw this, but ChatGPT just like 2-3 weeks ago or something like that implemented, you can like add people to the chat. You can be in the chat GPT and you can press add. I haven't tested it out, but like
It's hilarious.
it reminds me of a group. Yeah, it's hilarious, but it's also like it basically is Telegram. It's basically a chat group. It's basically like think about it like this. Like, and this is coming from the guy who's building Meme Pewter, which is, it's a silly name, but you know, it's an agent operating system that allows you to create, you know, agents that do things, and you can deploy them into various environments like text message, like Telegram, like X, like, you know, Discord, Slack, etc. And then eventually ChatGPT and things like that. So I do think that, I think you're right in a sense, and I also think that like we're already sort of almost there. I think maybe like the killer app is chat. I think, you know, and I built, it's coming from the guy who built x402jobs, because I think you need to escape that sometimes to build structured workflows and other things, of course. But like in general, you know, you're probably going to get most of the internet from like a chat interface, whether that's like a group text message or chat GPT with friends or something like that. But like, if you can imagine, you're chatting with a bunch of people, you got your group of friends, you're talking in a chat room, and then basically you have this AI friend or multiple agents that can kind of do things. And you can be like, hey, we're hungry, let's order whatever. And then, you know, food bot comes in and says, what do you want? You know, and then you just talk to it and you say, we want Thai, you know what I like, order it for me. And it knows, hey, I see Jason's here, he's gonna da 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 da, you know, and it just order, and it passes you a link, and you all have wallets in the corner, and it's all USDC or something like that, and like and it just pays for whatever you need, right? Or you're in a group office setting and you have, you know, ChatGPT can already shop for you on Amazon, and it's like really mind-blowingly good at it. If you want to buy something that's got multiple preferences, you want to buy an espresso machine, but you want it all metal and it needs to be within a certain price range, and it's going to go and grab everything and get you the right specs and da 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 da, and then like it's going to ask your boss for, you know, the budget, and you're going to press a button, and it's going to be on your doorstep in 2 days. And that's all happening in the chat interface, I think. So to a degree, I agree, but also like I do think that we're already kind of there. It just needs more, and we're probably gonna have multiple of them. It's not just gonna be one. Like you're probably gonna have one that you like, that one that's like good at X, Y, and Z. But we just need ChatGPT to like support more obvious, like, and maybe they already have this stuff, and I just haven't used it. But like, you know, I just think of like a chat group where you have ChatGPT at the top, and like you can just add in different resources and things like that that do specialized things. And you can just be like, hey, go give me some food or something like that. And or like, hey, what's the latest news? Or generate an image or generate a movie we can all watch together or something like that. And I mean, it's already sort of happening in that chat. It's just making it more available and making tools easier to like create these things and deploy them quickly into those environments. And I think ultimately Telegram looks very close to ChatGPT when you think about, and a text message group, when you think about adding in multiple people into ChatGPT. That's basically what they're doing, is creating a chat window, and now you have a smart AI, you know, agent that can kind of do things for you. Go shop for us, you know, whatever. Fill my groceries up, or whatever. You know what I like.
Yeah, well,
And
I have some very interesting thoughts on that. Actually, that is a shameless plug for Dexter, because, and if you allow me to, I'm going to spend about 2 minutes to give my thoughts on everything that you just said as it relates to Dexter. Um, so having integrated Dexter into each of these different interfaces, X, ChatGPT, Claude, and Alexa, and the Dexter voice, and the Dexter chat, and last but not least, Dexter Telegram, each one is slightly different if you think about it, right? The chat, obviously, it's a one-on-one. Voice, it's a one-on-one, but it has to speak differently. It's a very different system, and like you're never going to want it here. You don't want it to hear your entire wallet address. Otherwise, it will speak it if it's not a completely different system. So um, you just talk differently than you read. And with Twitter, you've got to understand that it's typically one-on-one because somebody's mentioning the bot, but still it needs the entire conversation context of who is who, and it needs to remember all of that. not forget it the next time you mention it. And then in Telegram, that's a very different one, because you're, like you said, you're in a group chat and you want it to be able to do things on behalf, and you want it to be able to pay for things on an individual's behalf, or the groups for that matter. And that's a really interesting thought. A group pay system. Oh, I'm writing that down. So now, if what we've got right now is, and you've just helped me to realize how this could be really foundational, but in the Telegram group, there's the Dexter agent, which has the same shared memory brain as every other interface. So if you ask it a question on Twitter, it'll remember that you asked that question and what it answered on Telegram, and it'll hone its responses to you and the group's conversations as they kind of flow. But when you are in the group and you run the link command, all you do is log into your Dexter account one time, and it's now using the x402 managed system that I was talking about for ChatGPT and Claude. Everything essentially where you have to log into a third-party interface, it uses the managed system. And the reason why we just have to do that is because it's just the way it is. I say it like it's a negative, but honestly, it's a real positive if you think about the fact that we offer both public routes and this managed route. Now, not to get off track, in Telegram, and what I'm working towards building is a fully context-aware, database memory and all the 9 yards, system that can do just that. Like, oh, we got the group who likes pepperoni pizza in the chat. Okay, I guess we're getting pepperoni today. And then somebody just says, okay, order it. And right now, I have the bot doing that essentially for Sora videos, and the promotional video that we tweeted yesterday for the space, that was from an x402 job on Sora via Telegram. And I think that is going to become actually a really big part. Group chat agent usage, that's a very interesting thought. So right now it's only in the Dexter Telegram, but I suppose if somebody were to make a bot system that was addable to other groups, probably not our job, that's not our cup of tea, but somebody else does that would probably be a big hit. And then one more thing I want to hit on that you mentioned was just my thoughts on the value stack. So where do because I haven't given my 2 cents. I wanted to cheat and get you guys' thoughts first. But I think there's a lot of market focus. Okay, and this is I wanted to say this for a long time. There's a lot, I agree with you guys both. And there's a lot of market focus on facilitation right now, because obviously Coinbase, and we've got big companies entering, Visa, and a lot of visibility given to the concept of the facilitators. But when you really think about it, it becomes a little bit less clear that the facilitation is going to be where the value goes. There are benefits. There are certainly benefits, and there are definitely benefits to running a facilitator in your own stack. And for many who haven't seen, Virtuals is a very, very, very extremely popular and probably the leading platform in crypto for, let's say, crypto agents in general. It's huge. Virtuals, look it up. And they've just migrated to a fully x402 native system. I haven't completely dived into it yet, but I trust them at their face that it's now fully x402. I see on the stats on x402 scan that they are certainly up and coming big time, and they're now a significant, formidable player all of a sudden in the x402 business, and that's amazing, because the pie is so small right now that the bigger the pie gets, and it can be unbelievably bigger than it is today, and it probably will. So that's great. But there you go ahead.
Sorry, I have to jump here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and just give anything you're closing and head out. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. I'll just kind of like jump or kind of add on to your last point about facilitators. If you're building in the x402 space, facilitators are probably the last thing that you should try and touch. We've seen this before, and it's a facilitator is basically just an RPC wrapped up and rebranded. And if you don't have the experience of running hardcore Web3 infra, you're just creating more of a headache for yourself, and like create like just adding more problems that it's like your your linear or your Trello board, when you could be building like better, bigger and better things. Um, and I say that not mostly because like the facilitator has one job, and that job is to land and settle transactions. But there's nothing that's saying that like your middleware or your client can't do that on behalf of your X402 like transaction flow. And so like where you should be spending your time is thinking about what are the like user like behaviors that will change when people can pay for the goods and services that they want, at the point that they're using them without needing subscriptions or other kind of like existing payment schemes. That's where like the value for X402 will continue to like unlock. It's certainly not on the facilitator side. All right, I got to jump. If you guys have any questions, or anyone in the audience wants to chat about X402, can DM me Classic Scuba, or hit us up, Corbits underscore Def. Thanks for having us, Dexter. I'll catch you guys on the internet.
Fantastic to have you, and you got some of the best tech in the game. See you soon.
Ciao.
So, and then just to close up on that, yeah, I think he's spot on. He's really spot on with that, and that's why, as important as it is to have the let's say the full stack, as I said, it's really about how people are using it, and having every possible avenue be as high quality as possible and whatnot, and user friendly, having great resources, and you and I can talk more about this raw ground, how resources have a quality level to them, and it's going to become competitive. It's going to become competitive. Not only, let's say, reputation. Well, I mean, I guess it's a part of reputation, but one thing I've been having issues, let's say, with is payload size. If you call a resource, you don't know how big it's going to return something. And long story short, it can just totally pollute your context, and then suddenly your whole conversation is shot, and you just paid for basically a toxin on your conversation. But without getting too off track again, I want to just give you guys some math. So think about the facilitation. Coinbase in the last 1 month has facilitated 41.3 million transactions. Just the other day, they announced that they were going to implement a 0.001 cent per transaction fee above the first 1,000, I think, per month. So that's facilitation as a service. I believe it's what PayAI is doing. I mean, word for word, and that's a very, it's a business model worth exploring. But when you do that math, that's at the moment $41,000. So the revenue for Coinbase for the entire month of the last month of X402 would be $41,000. Or that's not necessarily going to keep Coinbase alive. So the business model and that's a competitive price. It's probably going to be even lower than that in the future, because not everything costs that much. I mean, data is pretty cheap. So I just wanted to close on that point, that it's not as lucrative as it might seem right away, unless you are the resource server that is selling the data. If you're not the one selling, who's making the money if somebody comes in and buys $1 million thing at my store? It's the store. It's not Visa. They're just processing it, and now it's a very, very, very competitive. It's not like it's just Amex versus MasterCard. It's everybody, anybody. You can just fork something and start facilitating. So, but what Pontus says is right. It's fraught with road bumps. So there will be managed services, and PayAI will have customers, and not to say that it's just it's very tough if you haven't done it before. Otherwise, you'll all of a sudden be getting hit with a transaction with tons of high priority fees because you didn't think about that, and then boom, you're drained. So we've been about 1 hour and 5. I guess we'll what have we not discussed here? We've hit on Breakpoint, we hit on Dexter, we've hit on the future of X402 and where we think it's going. I've got a lot to, oh, well, yeah, how about the next week in X402? Now, for us, we're going to be all over the place. I'm going to be tweeting up a storm because I want it to feel like that you guys are there with me at Breakpoint. So you'll be seeing everything I'm seeing, short of me having Ray-Ban glasses. And I'll still be pushing out some great things. I have a couple on the deck, but I just need to add the documentation, and that's X402 mini games. That's the expansion of the job system, which I've mentioned in the Telegram. But no, I feel like I've been dominating now for like 5 minutes. So let me catch a breath. Frog Round, do you have anything else that you wanted to say about X402 jobs?
Oh man. Yeah,
I mean, I'll say it for you. I know you could go all day, but I'll say it for you. You've got something amazing here. The webhook idea is legitimately novel, and if you keep thinking of amazing things like this, and you cooked this up very quickly. I noticed that you've been getting some attention from some very smart people about it. So I think everybody should give you a follow for sure, and keep up with your progress. I had some other notes that happened last week, but a lot of stuff that we've discussed, Coinbase developments, and they're really pushing this thing hard. Coinbase, I think that they'll essentially guarantee the success of this protocol. There are no competitors of it right now, so we don't know for sure it'll win, but I think it's a heavy bet.
I don't see why you would need another protocol. You know what I mean? Unless there's something like markedly better. You know, it's like the USB argument. It's like, I mean, I don't know, like unless you have really specialized needs or something like that, you wouldn't need to create like a different connector. It's just a protocol to connect resources and pass money along. If it works, it works. You know, there's no performance attached to it, and it doesn't look like anything. The user doesn't see it. Who cares? I don't see a reason why. It's more of an adoption network effect thing from my point of view. And the more stuff that's built on top of it quickly and the faster it spreads, the more permanence it has, and the stickier it is. And I think there'll be upgrades. You know, like one of the things that we deal with here at X402 Jobs is, and even Memeputer is like long running operations, and there are specs for that, but you know, there really isn't anything. I mean, maybe that's like outside of X402 Jobs, but or sorry, X402 the spec. But things like that need to be communicated and documented. Like, how do we agree on something that's asynchronous or something like that? Like X402 jobs are asynchronous. You start it, you wait till it's done. It could take an hour, as long as you can have something that just shows you how long it's taking. So we use the LRO pattern, but that's just an example of like, there will be edge cases that come along and there will be reasons to like put add-ons to it, but I don't think like the base spec needs to change unless it just doesn't work or account for some very basic things. And so far it works. It's just a matter of building on top of it. And we're still very early. We're still coming up with things. There's still like a lot to be desired. And that's kind of why I built that is why I built X402 jobs. And I built it in a week. Still building. There's a lot to build, but yeah, I mean, I built it out of want. I didn't, you know, I went to X402 Scan and was like, where's the thing that I can connect resources? Like, I get that you can put them in a chat and like hope for the best, but like, I need something where I can say, do this, then this, and do that if it fails, and do this, and then post it in, you know, in Telegram or something like that, or post it on X, or put it in a bucket, or send me an email or something like that. And it just didn't exist. And so I think, going to see more and more and more of that, and less on the spec itself. And to Pontus's point, you know, why waste time building a facilitator? There's going to be services out there that do that for you, whether the winner is Coinbase or PayAI or Dexter or the Linux of facilitators or something like that. You know, who knows? It could be anything. I think at the end of the day, facilitation becomes a commodity, perhaps. and very cheap and easy and fast, and someone's going to come along and do it. And there's going to be a lot of there's already seeing a lot of competition in the space. And so yeah, I don't know if the value accrues to facilitation or
Yeah.
not, but
Yeah, I think one of these days we'll just see Visa, we'll see MasterCard, we'll see these big players on these pop up on this leaderboard, and everybody will realize that it's a very, very competitive game, and it's one that's fraught with trouble. And the job system is one that we've grappled with as well. The difficulty on that, and not difficulty, but just the stumbling that is something you have to think about, and how do you handle it? And
can you talk about the drawbacks? Like, what are the dangers?
The drawbacks of the job
being a facilitator, like what's it?
Well, yeah,
it's fraught with danger.
Well, so it's fraught with, and maybe dangerous isn't the perfect word, but if you want to be a good facilitator, if you want in the future for any system to choose yours, you've got to be at the top of uptime. So if you're against one with 99.999% uptime and yours is 99.9, that's not good enough. And that means you've got to never drop a transaction. Your RPC has to be, well, your entire system has to be, and there's a lot that goes into that. You can have retry mechanism, but that's just one tiny little, it goes a lot deeper than that. And you can have redundancies and fault, as long as it gets done. But then you've got transaction speed to come into play, and all these things that don't matter right now because there's not any competition really, there will be in the future. So it's a game that it's just not going to provide a ton of value. And I want to get to our new speaker, Vivek, who I actually don't know, but I just quickly glanced at your profile, and I think that you might have some good things to say. So what's going on, Vivek?
Hey, thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. I just wanted to say, like, you guys have been chatting about some great stuff, especially with x402jobs, and congratulations on getting a lot of volume, at Dexter AI. I just want to talk about disputes, right? This is something I've been looking at on x402, and I actually visited I was at a meetup in SF where some people talked about disputes where an agent basically took the money and threw a 500, and there's been a bunch of that. So I've actually been testing, and I realized that despite Visa and MasterCard and MX getting into the space, I think in the non-custodial side, given that blockchain transactions are instantly final and settled with no way to dispute or chargeback, I think so I'm building something called x402disputes.com, and I'm providing people and to basically register their agents and view disputes against their agents. I wanted to ask, how did you guys, work on your go-to-market strategy at Dexter AI or even x402jobs?
Well, so first, I think you're we got a little bit of an echo, but then first, I think that I got to ask you, what meetup were you at in San Francisco?
I was at the Cloudflare x402 meetup.
Oh, well, you and I were probably in the same room.
Yes.
So, and I don't, I think, and I'm looking forward to talking to Kevin in the next couple of days, because I've got to ask him about where this type of stuff stands. But the disputes and refund idea system on x402, that's a great thing to be working on. So kudos to you on that. And how did we go to market? Well, my personal strategy was to just start and go as fast as possible. And it's not traditional. It's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but to begin somewhere and just honestly, I didn't quite have the perfect vision when I set out to do this in August or September or August. I really started with the vision of just wanting to be able to use my own crypto agent resources type of thing in a Claude environment. And then hold on, I got somebody calling me. There we go. So and it really evolved. And then I actually had only 2 weeks of building that until I learned about x402, and then it became clearer and clearer that this would blow up, and I just wanted to build interfaces. And my go-to-market strategy was interfaces first, brain first, interfaces second, and then all of the what can be put off until later gets put off until later. I could probably come up with a better answer to that, but Meme Pewter has one as well. So what do you think?
First of all, Vivek, my guy, that right there has a great idea. It's an obvious need in hindsight. Like, I'm mad at you because I didn't come up with it, because I'm like, well, I can't work on everything, but like every time I hear a good idea that I'm just like, oh man, like that's such a missing thing. Okay. So like, I can't wait to see what you build with that and how you make that work for people. And I'd be interested to hear more about it for sure. Like, just speaking from experience, jobs can fail. So what do you do about that? Right. Like, I mean, you could just have a disclaimer, say like, sorry, sometimes requests fail. You can't get your dollar back. Right. Does that work for production systems? I don't know. I don't think so. I think there needs to be something like that where you're like, if this failed, I need a pool of money. It needs to come back to me, and a story, or maybe with some like amount of like money that I'm prepared to lose 20% of that or something like that, just in case, right? I'm running a business. I need to use these resources. They're only available pay per use, or this is like the cheapest way. Let's do it. But if it fails, what do we do about that? So, I mean, it's a question. I don't know. What do you do about that, right? Maybe the resource that was triggered actually cost money to, even if it failed, too bad, right? So I don't know, but it's an interesting problem, and I can't wait to see like what you do with it. I followed you instantly as soon as I heard that. So like, it's very near and dear because things fail on our end. So what do we do about that? I don't know, but yeah. So I don't know. I forget what. Oh yeah, the question was how do we go to market? So I think in this space, crypto, I think go to market from my point of view is unless you have lots of funding, or you're extremely creative, or you already have like like a large following, let's say. I think the best way to get attention and to build a following and to build a community is a token, for better or worse. Okay. So this might backfire on me and people might not like this. I don't know. I think I'm probably in a crypto friendly crowd here. It's probably safe to say, but so that's from my point of view, mixed with what Branch is saying, go as fast as possible, because the space moves extremely fast. When in a world where people can build products in a week using Claude, okay, like I've been a software engineer for 20 years, more than that, and I haven't written a line of code in 6 months. Okay, like I get in the code and I look and I do reviews and stuff like that, and I'm like, nah, this smells, change it, but it's all voice. It's all me talking to Claude or someone else. So things go extremely fast. So it's really important. Speed is the ante to play for a lot of product development today, or maybe most of it. And this might be near and dear to you. Like, you saw a problem. You said remittance, like chargebacks. Like, how does this work? Like, this is a big problem. I need to move fast, and create a solution and move. So that's huge. But then also the token thing, I think, really makes a lot of sense for a lot of products, because it just, especially if they're crypto based, like you launching a coin brings people who might be your users. It brings a community, especially if there's like incentives built into your coin, like profit sharing or something like that, where you allow the community to, like, hey, if you're holding, you're gonna earn something, and so you have an incentive to go and talk about and evangelize the product yourself. And so I had a lot of success with Meme Pewter. We haven't scaled tremendously large, but we're working towards it. We started from 0, and now we have, I don't know, 3,000 more followers, almost 4,000 followers on X, and a small handful of customers that pay us. And I think we could grow, but we probably wouldn't have grown at all or been a thing at all without a token. And there hasn't been a dollar of marketing spent outside of like buyback and burns and stuff like that. So I think, there's tremendous value, and now mixed with like their creator reward paradigm, where you're able to launch a coin and earn money from it. So I know Branch could probably speak to this as well. Like, basically funded the entire project just based on people speculating and saying, this is a good idea. I like this builder. I like this idea. I'm going to invest in it. I'm going to join this community, and I'm going to watch him or her check in and talk about it every single day and give them feedback. So I think that's a huge component in this new paradigm. Like, it's almost like being funded by the crowd as opposed to private VC, where you're giving away equity to people in exchange for, some funding. In this case, you're creating a product in public, and you're dealing with the challenges that come along with owning a coin and the dragons that are in the trenches and people yelling at you and screaming at you. But if you do it right, it's pretty chill for the most part. And you have to deal with the community, and you have to check in with them and talk to them. And it's a different set of challenges, but there's no equity involved necessarily, outside of, like, exchanging your hard-earned time and whatever else, with the people around you, explaining to them what you're building and listening to their feedback and accepting their feedback and saying, okay, great. So that's my point of view, is like, I kind of side with Branch here, like, build as fast as possible, find something that needs to be built, build it, get out there, get the minimum viable product out there. And then if it's something that, like, people resonate with, you'll know. And you can, at that point, if you maybe get funding privately, or you can launch a coin to get funding. And then going to market is, like, from my point of view, is just tweeting, like, just tweet product updates every single day. And I've seen people be, like, really successful with just getting good at, like, sharing updates and making it sleek and smooth, and using AI tools to, like, quickly do a screen grab and do a video of, here's this new feature, here's what we're doing. And those tend to be very successful and extremely cheap. And, I'm sure that people have, thoughts on this, but that's kind of my point of view, is move fast, break things, launch a coin, bring a community in, and your community is going to guide you and help you and also fund you at the same time. So that's sort of
I might
my
have to
point of
change my
view.
profile picture. Move fast, break things, and launch a coin. That's a good one. So,
Thank you for sharing that. I have one more question. Like, in order to distribute your token, you still have to have distribution, right? The token's not going to sell itself.
I mean, I agree.
well, it might. If the thing, it might. So if you have a good product, and I have just two more cents to mix you guys' points together. For your product, I think a token could work. And then, but that's a big decision. So let me just say that if Corbits in the audience, or if x402 in general, if either one of those two launched a token right now, I'm sure it would be in the multi-millions. But that it's just a whole nother thing that you have to really be ready for. And it's a decision, right? If you have your own fundraising, if you have your own funds, it may be, it may be worth it to just do it yourself. But yes, I can't deny that has been a good fundraising vehicle and an attention stimulant. And in your case, I think that I'm just spitballing here. I've had 15 minutes to think about it, but with x402 being a lot of low cost things, but some high cost things. For example, our Sora job cost $8 right now, because Sora is freaking expensive to do a Sora 2 Pro video. So that I would say focus on high dollar resources, get just a couple services that would implement such a thing, and then boom, you have some visibility. And then should you choose to do a token route or whatever, or traditional fundraising, then you have a really easy way to get it. And at that point, it probably will sell itself.
Okay. I guess I'll reach out to you privately about it, to the two of you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got a great idea there. There is no, for anybody who's listening, there is no concept of refunds in x402. So if you pay for, let's just say that Sora job right now, but oopsie, the Dexter server is down because updating or whatever, then you just lost $8 and you didn't get your Sora video, and that's it. You're out of luck. So that's what the refund, and I think that's what type of need you're addressing there. So I think it could be forever or never until the x402 spec addresses that. There's a debate whether or not they should. I think they might.
They should.
But it's no guarantee.
They should. There should be some, like, response, like, key or something like that, where you're able to, like, send it back or something like that. Like, hey, this failed. Here's some unique key the server recognizes, and you're going to try again, whether you like it or not. I think, like, that's like USB B or USB-C or something like that. It's sort of like the analogy is like we need to upgrade the spec, perhaps.
So to add to your point, I spoke to Eric Rappel, right, on the day of the Cloudflare X402 meetup, and I asked him about, like, on-chain escrows, and he said that Coinbase specifically chose not to create on-chain escrows or implement them in the spec because you would be in the crosshairs with MTL. The moment you
It's true.
Yeah, and it's not just like a statewide MTL. There's MTLs in all the 50 or 51 states of the United States and Canada, but there's also MTLs in other countries. And given that, like, you are transacting cross-border, you would probably need to get MTLs from all of the jurisdictions, which is literally impossible. So yeah, I looked at the escrow model, and it was a nightmare, legally speaking. But I have been looking at, like, Abu Dhabi. Like, Abu Dhabi just came up with this an international jurisdiction, sort of international framework for um, crypto transactions. So I might need to take a look at it. If and I'm not in Abu Dhabi right now, but if anybody, I've been considering reincorporating in Abu Dhabi just because of this. What do you guys think?
I think that I am very eager to hear what they have at Abu Dhabi for X402. I hope to be in everywhere where they are, and I'll report back to you on on what happens. But if you're nearby, it's not too late.
Right.
They say everybody should go.
Right. Is anybody in Abu Dhabi right now?
I have a flight at 12 at midnight tonight.
Okay. I'll message you privately. Thank you.
Absolutely, and you can message the branch account here.
Sure.
Awesome, and I have the same username on Telegram.
All right.
Okay, well, it's great to talk to you and hear from you, and I think we'll probably wrap it up right about now. Great conversation, and I think that next week, I mean, I love this format. I think we'll have same guests are always invited, but we'll reach out to new guests and try to grow this panel even bigger and better and stronger, and we'll have a lot more to say after Breakpoint, and hopefully a lot of new friends. So I'll close with my comments on Dexter. So for the base facilitation, like I said, we've done our first one ever, which is fantastic. That's a milestone. We've got a memo in there that I'll challenge people to find later in the Telegram. But that being said, there's going to be a little bit of time until it shows on X402 scan as a base facilitator, because there's a PR that needs to be done, which we did for the first when we did with added Solana. So that's a pretty trivial thing. It takes me 15 minutes. It takes just an approve action, and I think that we've got some people who are listening to Dexter or aware of Dexter, and it'll happen pretty quickly. So I expect, I'm not even going to give my expectation. You guys know what to expect. But we are facilitating on base. Congratulations to Dexter. Let's go. And I've got a lot of exciting things to show you before the flight about the job system and whatnot that I mentioned earlier. So fantastic week to be going into Breakpoint. Obviously, we had one of the biggest up moves in God knows how long this morning. Solana rose $15 in 2 hours. That does not happen every day. So, and Bitcoin, last I checked, was, I don't know, 94.5. Crossing my fingers, knock on wood, it's still there or above. But if you guys have any closing comments, please share now or forever hold your peace till next week.
Branch, thank you, brother. Glad we're friends. Thanks for having me on. I'll try to be here next week, man.
Sweet. And Vivek, I will talk to you DM.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, fam. Thank you. And come in next week. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's go. And if you join the Telegram group, I'm going to be doing a lot of video chatting, video streams throughout the next 6 days to make it like you guys are there with me. In fact, I'm thinking about just putting my phone in my pocket, my breast pocket.